Yeah, well, I think it's actually good to work with people that you know. And the whole notion of don't work with your friends and family is misconstrued. Working with your friends and family is like the best thing ever if they actually know what they're doing. So like if you treat them and you treat the hiring process like you would with a stranger, when you make the decision to work with them, you'll probably be in a pretty good spot because the relationship will be there, and also you'll know for a fact that they're not lying straight to your face when they tell you about what they can do. Um, the challenge happens when you bring a friend on that you drag in from having zero experience in what they're doing just because you want to work with them and you want to have a good time, and they don't know where to start or what to do. That's the problem. And then the other thing that is the issue is that even if people are willing to bring on the right people that are friends and family, they're not willing to have the hard conversations to, one, set the relationship foundation right, and two, maintain a healthy relationship in their business. Right? It's like you might respect each other as friends, but when the business hats go on, you shouldn't be afraid to hold each other fully accountable, call each other out for your shit, and have the hard conversations because that shows how much you care for the business.
All right, we are back with the as of yet unnamed podcast with our guest Noah Kent. Noah, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having
Tell
me.
the people who you are, what you do, why Canada is the greatest country on the planet, and other things.
Oh, well, first off,
Yeah.
on the latter side of that, I don't know if I can argue that. I was just actually chatting with somebody last night saying I love this city, but I don't know how much I love this country.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but recently they changed our capital gains tax to 68% here in Vancouver.
Jesus
So
Whoa.
Christ.
as a business owner, I feel like I'm getting rinsed.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Yeah.
overall, beautiful place. I love this place. Aside from that, I've been an entrepreneur for the last 7 years. I'm 22 now, so I've been going since I was roughly 14, 15 years old. Started as a videographer, freelance. I was doing photo video work, kind of the one-off contracts while I was in high school. One of those kids who was doing his homework the night before and then coming into class and sending cold DMs on Instagram to local businesses, mainly restaurants, and sort of like luxury brands like cars and watches and whatnot.
Mm.
Um, Made my way to university, made it no more than a year, dropped out right before COVID happened because, quite frankly, I wasn't I wasn't holding up my grades. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't keep the grades high enough because honestly, I was focused on running my own business. So after that, decided to take the full leap into running my own agency. We did social media management. This is way back in like 2020, 2019. For those same businesses we were doing one-off content contracts for. Worked with a bunch of Michelin star restaurants on retainer, shooting content as well as posting on their social platforms. A couple car dealerships like Ferrari, Maserati, and then continued to work our way up the ladder and started realizing that ads were the right way to go because we were participating in super commoditized services and niches. So the real question was trying to figure out how do we leverage our time a little bit better instead of running on a net 20% margin with no real room up because we're competing on price. And that's just a race to the bottom. So we kind of doubled down on performance based models and started running ads and worked on attribution for the returns we made for businesses, and that skyrocketed our retention rates and allowed us to bill our clients much more month over month on more of a partnership basis. And fast forward a couple of years, that's where we are today. I've partnered with three other individuals. Michael was my first partner, and then we ended up merging with a program that did something very similar with smaller businesses. We only worked with businesses doing 25 to 50K a month minimum, just because they were the only ones who could afford our service on the front end for setup. These guys, Dylan and Alex, were basically working with people to take them from 0 or 5K a month and turn nobodies into somebodies, giving them the ability to kind of free themselves from the system. So it was a great plug and play. Great plug and play partnership and sort of merge for us. And for the last roughly 2.5, 3 months now, we've been sort of taking the approach of taking all of our services as a whole and packaging them into one to be one of the first sort of do it yourself, done with you, done for you combo programs in the space with obviously as high of a hit rate as possible for success. So that's where we are today. We call it a high leverage marketing holdco. A lot of the businesses that we've done really well with in the past separately. So the businesses that Dylan's worked with and the businesses that we've worked with, we actually are partners in those businesses. So we're hoping to do that at scale by providing value on a partnership basis and grow a portfolio of companies over the next couple of years that maybe challenges Alex Ramosi.
Nice. So,
There we
so you
go.
actually, when you say partner, I mean, I heard like whatever a couple of weeks ago maybe that you use that term. I actually thought at the time it was described like clients, but you actually take. Do you mean you take equity in these companies as well?
Yeah, well, almost everything we do is on a performance basis, right?
Mm.
We do take a
Mm-hmm.
small setup on the front end, but usually we'll kind of tack that into like upfront performance fees, and not start billing them until we meet that uh, fee that they paid us in the front end. But
Right.
everything we do is on a performance basis, and usually it's between 10 and 20% of attributed gross revenue. So these businesses are typically already doing cash or doing revenue every month, and we don't take any of what they're currently doing. It's just what we add, and the conversation just
Right.
gets really different when we help them add 50, 100, $200,000 to their top line over a 6 month period, and we're eating 20% of that, right? So it's either like, hey, look, we'll teach you how to do it on your own, and you're off on your own way, or let's find a way to work together and cut that performance fee down, maybe even to zero, and you can still have access to the same team that's done this for you, and you don't have to start from scratch again.
Right. So what made you realize like how did you come up with that model in the first place?
Yeah, so I mean, working in SMMA in 2019, everybody was doing the same thing. It was all like, "Oh, I'll shoot photo and video for you." Honestly, it's ironic if you look at a lot of the top guys in the space today, sort of the internet money space. Most of them started as photographers and videographers, and I find it so funny that's how it happened. But they're like the OG guys on YouTube, like Sam Colder with their
Mm.
My Year 2014, 2015 videos traveling the world, and that kind of set the tone for this digital entrepreneur persona. Um, so I started with photo video, and the only way to get into a retainer base from that on a sustainable recurring model was let's manage your social platforms and you pay us a retainer to shoot all your content and post it for you. So we were doing like copywriting, content strategy, analytics reporting, and like very low friction ads for
Mm.
just like engagement and boosting. And if you looked around the city, like it was a lot of local stuff because you can't just fly out to California once a week to shoot content for a client down there. So I was doing everything in Vancouver, and there were so many agencies. It's like every business I called, every business I was referred to had already spoken with like 5 other SMMAs, and they were all charging them between 1,500 and 3,000 a month. So the ceiling there was we were participating in a hyper commoditized niche or like service niche in a hyper commoditized market, which was like 3K max, and you were all competing on price. It's like every time I got on the phone with these guys, I would offer them something new, and they're like, I've already heard it. Can you just do it cheaper than the other agency that I spoke with? And nobody really could see the value of what we were providing because, like, at the time, Hyros didn't exist. So organic attribution didn't really work, especially if you're selling things like cars and food. I can post all week, but I don't actually know how much that returns for your business. So it was really difficult to retain clients, and it was really difficult to charge clients more than what we were currently doing. And internally, like we were running at basically net 10, net 20% margins. And I'm sat there feeling like I'm working for 9 different businesses at the same time, wondering what the fuck's going on because I became an entrepreneur to work for myself. And I was making less money than I was as a freelancer. So that was the
Mm.
impetus. It was just like, how do we change this model where the relationship is not you pay me every month and then you can't see illustrated returns to you don't pay me unless I perform, but we still get to deliver world-class delivery on the front end by taking a smaller fee, or like the equivalent of like 1 or 2 months of a retainer upfront, and then we partner on this and we work on a full performance basis down the road. It allows us to like work with less clients, make more
Right.
returns for real results, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, and it only works if you're like really good at what you do. Like, you can't, because otherwise you're just poor, right? Like retainer when you suck, you just make you're a volunteer at that point, right? Like,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, and it's like this. I think is part of the reason why we've been able to do so well is because nobody's willing to just put themselves out there on the line like that. And one of the things we talk about in our program, like on a lot of the calls we have and with our partners, is look, man, if you're not going to do this full time and you're not going to take the leap of faith, you should just go back and do whatever the fuck you're doing because you're not going to make it. Like the inputs required to get these outsized returns, like even to just have a business that survives for 5 years, are completely outsized. Like they're massive sacrifice, it's massive time commitment, and it's massive risk. But the problem is, if you don't put yourself in a sink or swim situation, you're never going to be able to swim. Because if you're just like holding onto the wall, you'll always choose to get out. So that's part of the reason why it took so long. Like I spent 2-3 years running this SMA, making 4 or 5K a month myself, wondering what the hell I'm doing, and then decided to finally just say fuck it, let's fire all of our clients. So I took our agency from like 20K a month down to 5K a month, I was making no money and just using that to maintain some of our favorite clients. And then started from scratch on a full performance basis. And that was fucking scary because I was like, okay, now I can't pay my bills.
Right.
But within
Now you have to perform.
exactly, but because I gave myself no other option, within 3 months we were billing a client $68,000 in a single month. So we had tripled our revenue with a single client, and provided that client so much value that they didn't even know what to do with themselves.
You're very well spoken. Did you do speech or debate or a lot of YouTube content yourself? How did you learn to articulate yourself like this?
um, to be completely honest, a little damaging admission is that as for the longest time I was terrible at speaking, and it was the one thing that I never wanted to do. So I spent a lot of time in my head kind of thinking and typing and planning. It's one of my biggest
Mm.
weaknesses is that I spend too much time planning. um, and a few years back there was a business that I was involved in that had a lot of community engagement. So I was getting up in front of hundreds of people on a daily basis, having conversations with them one on one, dealing with challenges face to face, and being forced into situations where you have to have those hard conversations in front of not just the person that you're having it with, but also in front of hundreds of other people live. And I used to like show up to those meetings and I'd be like shaking with my phone. And I remember I'd like lock myself in our old office. And we had this little recording room. It was a closet, like a broom closet with some soundproofing on the walls. I'd be sitting there just like shaking with my phone. And after 3 or 4 weeks of just putting myself in that position, again, sink or swim, it became something that I really enjoyed doing, because you just start to realize that if you want to do it, you'll probably do a much better job than anybody else who doesn't. So, yeah, trial by fire, I guess. And then
Love it.
leading teams over time, you start to learn how to talk.
Love it. Amazing. I want to circle back to something you said earlier, which is at a certain point you had to fire your clients because you were spending all this time, but you were making less money than you were making as a freelancer. What was it at the point, aside from just like switching the model of how you're monetizing your clients? Did you switch anything on the internal side in terms of your team members, your systems that actually allowed you to now start, serving more clients, serving them on a performance basis, but be able to take on more clients as well? Like what shifted internally for you?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing was taking like reframing from like how many clients can we service at the same time to how can we bill the clients that we do service 10 times more. Because at the time, like with an agent, for an agency making 10K a month, profiting 2 to 4K a month, you're sat there thinking that $10,000 is a huge bill. And so that's a terrible place to function from, because you're just thinking about how you can increase your service fee by $1,000 a month. But instead of doing that, going and thinking, how do I charge somebody $100,000 a month, and not only do that, but also have them feel really good about making that payment, is a completely
Right.
different mindset to function from. So what we did is we actually basically fired our entire team when we did that, and we had 3 people, like a copywriter, a content creator, actually 2 content creators, and then we had sort of like a strategist posting person that did all the reporting and account management. And none of those people really fit the bill. The other thing that I had to reframe in my mind was I've always wanted to like take my business far. I've always wanted to make a lot of money myself for very selfish reasons, and the fact that I want to be able to provide for my family. But knowing that, or coming to the realization that doing it on your own is not always the best way to go far. It's just a good way to get there fast. And like I got to 20K a month really fast, but I never really got past that. And I was stuck there for like years, to be honest. So the first thing we did is, instead of working with this existing team on an employee or like contractor basis, I went to reach out to one guy that I knew would do a much better job than I would at things like running ads and setting up funnel strategy, which would allow me to focus on the things that I do best, which are establishing relationships, building businesses and teams, and getting people aligned on making things happen. So he came in with me. I gave him equity in the business, and we partnered up. And I realized from that point forward that like doing it together, you go much further than you do if you do it alone. So that was a big change we made, and it was just him and I running a single client account for about 3 months. And then after that, we brought on media buyers, we brought on some funnel strategists, we brought on some copywriters, and things started to really grow. But before anything else, we had to learn how to do it ourselves first. And I'm a big believer that before you delegate, before you build a system, overcomplicate it, do the unscalable thing, learn how to do it yourself, And then after that, very last step, automate, systemize, and optimize.
Love it. I something you mentioned that really intrigued me, and this is something we've heard from other successful business owners, and me and Ryan consider ourselves successful business owners as well. But this is like a common thread that we seem to find with everyone. You mentioned that at a certain point you found a partner and you gave in equity, and after that point things really kicked off. So going down on that, I want you to expand a bit on how partnerships, and in this case that specific partnership, actually influenced your business and made that switch in terms of how big of the growth curve you were able to achieve because of being able to partner up with someone who had a skill set that was complementary to yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big mistake a lot of people make is looking for a partner that's just like them, right? Like people gravitate toward people that are similar, but I've made that mistake many times in my life, and every time it's blown up in my face. So I've just kind of resorted to doing it on my own. This individual who our community now knows as Michael has been instrumental in taking our business to the next level. And he's the exact opposite as me. Like every single part about myself, you can flip it 180 degrees and you get Mike. And I think that was probably the big realization, and the one thing that blew it up in our face in a different way than it ever had before. Was that people will try, like they'll partner up, and instead of doing two times the work, they do the same work times two, because you're not only doing it yourself, but then you're like going back and checking somebody else's work. But if you get somebody that's completely different than you can do two times the work without having to check in on the person, because you just trust the fact that they're going to do it better than you can, because you're just not the same person. And you also don't overlap, and you feel like you have to clash in terms of your role responsibilities outside of your main skill sets, right? Like Mike's not his biggest strong suit is not his speaking abilities or his abilities to get people aligned. So team management wise, building the right team is not that's something that I focus on, right? And he focuses on making sure
Right.
that that team has the systems and whatnot to deliver great results. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I don't know if
love
that
it.
answers your question directly or indirectly, but
Yeah, yeah. No, this is. Well, it was interesting for me, right? So, one of the things I was curious about. So, you've worked with a lot of, high end brands, right? So, Ferrari, Michelin star restaurants, and so on and so forth. What was there anything about your interactions with them? And like, I don't know what your background is like. So, I mean, for me personally, like I grew up very middle class. My parents had a Toyota car, with a Ford minivan and all this kind of stuff, right? So I've never, like I've never in really, I didn't know people that have Ferraris and stuff now, but I would consider myself like I'm very curious about that world. I saw, have you guys seen The Bear?
I haven't, but I've heard it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. There's a couple of scenes in there where they're in Michelin star restaurants, and like the way that the staff engages with each other is like it's actually, I mean, it's actually really inspiring in terms of how the precision they have and the teamwork they have, and how everything works, right? Um, so I've seen that world from movies and such, right? But never, I wouldn't consider myself to be. I had posters of Ferraris and stuff, but I don't own a supercar, or if I don't have a fleet of supercars, right?
Right.
But I'm curious, like, what is there anything that you learned from that world that you took with you, or anything like interesting observations from doing marketing? Because there's people that like we talk to that do marketing for like a flooring company, right? It's like kind of rough and tough, and it's home services, right? So I'm curious what if anything um, you learned from some of the best restaurants and best products in the world.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that I'll like overview them and explain kind of how we've implemented all those things, because I think working with those businesses has influenced the way that we run our business almost entirely. Like I don't think there's any single
Mm.
thing that's had a bigger influence. Um, One is the obsession with perfection and the customer experience. They sell low volume products, right? So if you look at a Toyota or a Honda, they actually make more money and more profit every year. But the Ferrari
Right.
and the Maseratis and the Lambos and the McLarens have these great brand equity, and as a result, they can make money in a lot of different ways. and they don't pump volume, they pump 1 or 3 cars a month as opposed to a couple hundred per dealership. um, so it's a very different kind of business, and as a result of that, the team holds each other to a completely different standard. So the first thing is customer experience and obsession. The second thing is the standards the team holds each other to. Uh, and then the third is understanding that you don't have to sell at volume to make great money. In fact, sometimes selling at lower volume is the better play because you build great brand equity. You get great results for every single person that you service. And on the back end, it opens up a lot more doors than having to just be that sort of like Joe Schmo average brand that just sells to everyone. And one of the things we always talk about is like marketing to everybody is marketing to nobody. So it kind of follows that same thing. But in terms of like how that's influenced our business, I think it probably is pretty self-explanatory based on what I just said. But uh, it took us observing and working with those businesses to say, hey, like, why are we looking at servicing 500 clients at the same time when we could service five and make 10 times more money than we would at
Mm,
500? Because when
love it.
watching Ferrari sell a car for $500,000, and then I watched Toyota sell one for 15, and I'm wondering what the fuck's going on, right? Like, it's just so much less
Yeah, like
input.
no one's buying like a Toyota jacket, right? No one's
Exactly.
getting a Toyota tattoo, right? Like no. There's like no little boy that says, yeah, grows up dreaming of one day having a Corolla.
Exactly. And that dream, you can roll into so many different things. Like, I bet you Ferrari could roll out any kind of product they wanted to right now, and everybody would buy it
Right.
because it's part of that dream they had as a kid. And then the second thing was team standards, right? Like, perfection and customer obsession is so much more important than sales, and that, like, it just rolls right back into selling less but for more value, and then being able to charge more money in exchange for that. It's a little bit more risky on the business because you have to be good at what you do. But if you can bank on that, you're going to sleep better at night. Your customers are going to love you more, and the business is going to grow compoundedly much faster because you have great referrals. So yeah, all those things we've implemented at our own businesses, but it was really cool to see their attention to the detail, and see how that influenced the people that spoke about their companies.
Yeah. How do you you mentioned you were initially doing your process alone, right? And with your partner. But was there anything you were doing differently? And like I know how we've done this, so I'm kind of selfishly asking for our own benefit as well. But um, I would say we had a very similar journey of training people. Like Tony and I trained everybody, um, and so I think like that's how we did it. Is, training and checking quality at every step and things like that to make sure that our team's quality like is as high as we want it to be. But how did you guys do it in terms of like how do you? I mean, I'm curious as well. Like, I mean, how does Ferrari train somebody to know that it's okay to get one customer per month and this one customer per month is going to pay for the entire business, right? Like, is there anything special you think about in terms of like team motivation that had to switch to facilitate that?
Yeah, well, first thing is we did is we went from just paying fixed rate per client payments to base
Mm,
plus performance. And when we first started, it was just performance, and that was a huge thing because it wasn't just a couple guys coming onto a team where you know Mike and Noah take all the risk, and then we get paid $5,000 a month, and we don't really understand how important it is to make this customer win or help this customer win. So when we first started, it was like, okay, we're all in performance here. So we're all in sink or swim situations because I know that if we put everybody in that position, we're all going to win. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, we've earned our spot here. We've built a little bit of a moat around the business, and now it's time for us to, start paying people a base and work on our business's margins so that we can start exploring growth opportunities, and keep that performance aspect in place. So I think for us, it was training wise, not being afraid to lead by example, get in the trenches and do the dirty work, but also keeping the team as lean as possible, and not just like hiring for the sake of hiring, and then finding the right people, which took a long time. Like, I've been through thousands of interviews in the last 12 months, with sales reps and media buyers and the whole nine yards, because it's so hard. It's like so hard to find the right person. I mean, you like get into an interview with the frame of you're going to get paid on full performance. You're going to get paid on like mainly performance. Some people get really excited and like those are the guys and the women that you want to bring onto your team. But the ones who are just like, you know what, I need a base. The first thing I say is like, 100%, I understand where you're at, but like this is just not for you, and the call's over.
Right.
So finding the right people and then putting the work in with them for sure.
Yeah. Where do you find your best people? Like we always, I mean, we get it. Actually, all of our team, I think,
Came through inbound. Yeah,
yeah,
all of our team.
every single person, everybody came in
10
inbound.
people,
Yeah.
10 people in the company, all of them are inbound.
Yeah, they're all inbound.
Yep.
Yeah, we did try like outbound stuff for a bit, and we find like if someone watches our stuff or sees what we do and is like excited and reaches out and like, hey, I want to work for you guys, they stick around for longer. Like they know what they're getting into. It's amazing. But yeah, I'm curious where you guys find best talent.
Yeah, same thing for us. Inbound has always been the best. We've done outbound hires as well, like doing the whole like breezy posting on every job platform and screening thousands of customers or candidates.
Yeah.
Nah. When we merged with Dylan and Alex's company, every single person was either a family friend or a friend of a friend. And
Right.
for us, like it was all Mike and I's personal connections to start. Obviously, not all of them ended up working out in the long term, but they were exactly who we needed at the time, and we were exactly who they needed. And then the team members we have today are all through referrals, right? Like our top performers ended up sticking around, and they brought the top performers that they had in their life with them too.
Right.
So it's much easier to be bought in and get started running when that's the case.
What do you think is the reason? Oftentimes, and people often have like very much polarized opinions on this, like you don't want to mix personal contacts with business. I'm sort of more on the side. You absolutely, if you have the ability to lean into personal contacts, there's already pre-built rapport and pre-built trust that is set in place outside of the business, that if you're able to just like employ that into the business from day one, it just makes the entire ramp up phase be that much quicker and that much better. What do you think some of the, you mentioned like when you guys merged together, a lot of the team members were either friends or friends of friends. Do you think that social aspect of bringing in the trust and the like, hey, I do not want to screw up the relationship outside of this actual job, actually made a difference for you guys?
Yeah, well, I think it's actually good to work with people that you know, and the whole notion of don't work with your friends and family is misconstrued. Working with your friends and family is the best thing ever if they actually know what they're doing. So, like, if you treat them and you treat the hiring process like you would with a stranger, when you make the decision to work with them, you'll probably be in a pretty good spot because the relationship will be there, and also you'll know for a fact that they're not lying straight to your face when they tell you about what they can do. Um, the challenge happens when you bring a friend on that you drag in from having zero experience in what they're doing just because you want to work with them and you want to have a good time, and they don't know where to start or what to do. That's the problem. And then the other thing that is the issue is that even if people are willing to bring on the right people that are friends and family, they're not willing to have the hard conversations to, one, set the relationship foundation right, and two, maintain a healthy relationship in their business. Right? It's like you might respect each other as friends, but when the business hats go on, you shouldn't be afraid to hold each other fully accountable, call each other out for your shit, and have the hard conversations, because that shows how much you care for the business. All three of my business partners today that hold equity in this business that we now have together are my closest friends. Like, we hang out together outside of business all day. We have birthday dinners together and hang out with each other's girlfriends and the whole 9 yards. And it's like when we roll into the office at 6 a.m. and we do our leadership stand up for 15 minutes and there's shit to get done, and I walk up to somebody and I say, "What the fuck are you doing?" There's no hard feelings. And as soon as that business hat comes off, it's hugs and dabs and a great time all around. And if we stop working together, it's clearly not going to be a problem. So the only reason why that's the case is because we took the time to set the right foundations. And most people just can't separate or that from their personal life, and also are too afraid to have the hard conversations. Like, I'm talking in loops, but it's like,
Right.
fuck, just go and do it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, we just like, so in the moments where you have to like fire somebody or you know, whatever it is, like, man, like I grew up like religious, so it, for me, it's like having a conversation of, sorry, you can no longer work here. You don't want to have that. It's
No,
not
you don't.
pleasant to have, like, but at the same time, it's even less pleasant to to say to your team who's performing well and is taking up the slack and is stressed out because it's, some people are not pulling their weight, like it's even worse for them, right? So it's something like I mean I've had to learn, um for sure. It's not, I mean, it's not pleasant. One thing that's super interesting is like there's been times when Tony and I will have to call each other on our shit, right? But ultimately it's like coming from a place of we both want, like, if Tony's doing great, I make more money. If I'm doing great, Tony makes more money. So we got to fix some things, make it better, and you evolve, right? So it's
Yeah,
yeah.
and just talk about it and say exactly how you're feeling when you feel, because one of the things that operators, speaking of operations, will fuck up is they'll take small problems and put them off to the side without crushing them right
Yep.
away, and then 3 months later, those problems have grown into gigantic business-killing beasts that come out under your bed in the middle of the night and decapitate you. And the same thing happens with conversations you need to have with your partners. So whether or not it's your friend or somebody that wasn't your friend before, the nature of you working together in business every day is going to make you friends. So when you feel something, you say it. And like there have been plenty of conversations with my existing business partners where I've called them up and been like, listen, man, I'm so unimpressed with this part of the way that a relationship goes that I don't even want to be partners with you right now. And if you can't fix this in the next week, I don't think I can be. But like that's the kind of conversation you need to have and the words you need to say in order to like underscore how important it is. But most people won't ever say those things.
Yeah, I mean it's taking the business relationship and really approaching it as you would any other healthy relationship, a friendship, a girlfriend, a marriage. It The principles to make any relationship successful also apply to making a business relationship successful. And like Ryan and me were like talking about this the other day is we're having this friendly competition of who's going to be able to bring in more leads from our YouTube channels, and we're like in this friendly sort of competitive edge. I'm not going to give Ryan my secrets, and Ryan's not going to give me my secrets. You put each other as competitors in like the vidIQ software, so we're like monitoring who gets more views and stuff like that.
No,
But
you
like
put
when you
you
take
put
a
me
look
as
at
a
it,
competitor. You're not a serious competitor. No,
oh
I
no,
give you my secrets
I'm above
because
you.
I know I have the secret sauce that it
The
doesn't matter how
secret
much
sauce.
information you have, sir. I mean, it's, people love the Canadians. It's nothing. There's
People
nothing you
love
can
the
do about it.
Canadians, right?
Listen, man, it's not
So,
the
but
recipe. It's not the recipe. It's the
yeah,
chef.
It's the chef, right? Right.
we'll see. We'll see. We'll circle back to this in a couple of months. See who won. But what I
Listen,
was
man,
trying to
you and,
get
you
at
and Bill
is
Gates just both have the same computer like software. This is not a skill issue, sir. Skill issue.
skill issue. No, what I was trying to
Yeah.
say is you can figure out in a business relationship how you can even turn these small, call it frustrations, call it these small competitions and really turn them to work in your favor. Like me and Ryan, I would consider myself to be competitive. I would consider Ryan to be competitive as well. You don't need to compete against each other to tear each other down. Like if Ryan's channel blows up on YouTube, like I'm happy because that means more business for us. So like in no means I'll be sad if Ryan just like sweeps me off the rug in terms of like him blowing up on YouTube and getting a bunch of leads. So I think a really useful concept, and I'm sure you guys figured out this. I would actually be curious what sort of games you guys play among each other to sort of facilitate this, partner competitions within the business to actually move everything forward.
Yeah, well, I think it's in the name, right? Like currently our program's name is Relentless Success Club. It might change in the next couple of weeks or months here, but Relentless is in the name, and relentless competition is one of our core values. And all of our leaders are here because we're relentlessly competitive with one another. Obviously, we don't have very much overlap in what we do because it's just not efficient. But if Dylan's taking care of marketing and he's getting 100 leads a day, and I'm taking care of sales and we're only booking 10 appointments from those leads, who's winning that competition.
Yep.
Or if I'm upstairs watching a movie and Alex is downstairs sending messages in on Slack, working on dialing in our product, and Mike's building out Zapier automation so we can have data insights. And I'm seeing those messages roll through on Slack. It's not even like a competition. It just makes me feel like shit. So
Right.
I feel like I'm just not doing enough. So that like competitive drive inside of you to not only just to not beat them down, but to be better than them so that they can also be motivated to be better than you creates this like compounding flywheel of like, okay, now we're going to move quick.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. I think it's the only way to go. Like if you're going to be in partnerships and you don't have this element of, friendly competitiveness among each other, I find it hard. At least, might be my personality type, right? I don't know what you would say. Would you consider yourself to be competitive?
Me?
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. If I'm not winning, I have like full on anxiety
There we
attacks.
go.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
about as
Makes
competitive as
that's
it gets,
guys.
man.
That's just called testosterone. I think
Yeah.
that's what they call it. Yeah. So no,
Yeah.
there's I saw something on this. Like if you want to like bring out a man's like masculine side, you should be like Noah. Like for sure. Like I don't even think you could like jump over that thing, or I don't know if you could do let's like come on, let's just show us what you got. Like there's no way that you like, just try it, right? And if you want to bring out a woman's like feminine, you should be very like complimentary and no, you look so pretty and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. More emotional, not competitive.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think that's and so I yeah, I think there's probably like a balance for everybody in that. Like in our team, I noticed that in our team, like our guys are awesome, actually. Like so smart. But even like that was like probably 6 months ago. Two of them are, or one of them is in high school, is just graduating this year, and he's taking like all AP classes, advanced placement for those not knowing. And so he shared like one of his calculus problems in Slack, like a screenshot of it, and he had like this like a grade 12 AP math calculus problem, and like other people on our team were like solving two other guys were like, oh yeah, this is my answer. Like I just open up Slack and I'm like, why are they doing calculus? Like you know what I mean? Like what's going on here? And so yeah, the setting that culture of everybody knows everybody else on the team is like a killer. Like you're like the 1990s like Chicago Bulls is. It's cool. It's really like for people that have never experienced that. It's really fun. I mean, it's just awesome to be part of because you feel like everybody around you. Like I don't know. You guys probably had the exact same experience. Like when I was in high school, I always felt like doing a group project was super dicey because you just know like the other people are gonna fuck it up. And
Yep.
and when you have a team and you know everybody around you is like gonna do a really good job, it's first off it's exciting, because you learn things from other people. The whole team wins. Like it's just like you just feel like you're on top of the world. I mean, I grew up in I grew up in Western Canada too. It's like not, I mean, whatever, like an hour and a half. I grew up in Calgary. It's like an hour and a half from where Noah's from, and like playing. I don't know if you play hockey, Noah.
I didn't, but Dylan does.
Okay, so Dylan will appreciate this. Like there was like a couple of games where my hockey team we won like 10-1 or like 10-0, and 10-0 in hockey is obnoxious. Like 10 at this point everyone's just dicking around, right? And so when your team is like when you have a great team, everything just team sports. Like it's like playing team sports is what it's like.
Yeah, and almost all the people in our team have come from very successful semi-pro sports careers as
Really?
late teens, early 20s. Yeah, like myself,
Okay.
I qualified for Olympic trials for swimming, and then I went and played on Team Canada for a sport that most people don't know, but it's called ultimate frisbee.
Oh
Dylan's
shit.
only objective when he was
Okay.
a kid was to make the NHL.
Yeah.
Michael was training in 5 different kinds of fighting disciplines, martial arts.
Yeah.
Our guy Alex here has been training boxing for I don't even know how long, but everybody in our team has a story like that. And I think that honestly, it's a huge driver and a huge indicator of success, especially in like a scrappier startup environment for sure.
Right. That's awesome. So I don't know. I don't. I mean, there's very few people know this about me, but I'm not a very good swimmer. I was always into like cycling and running and stuff like that, growing up, and I always dreamed of doing an Ironman triathlon. So I was like really like I had to like learn how to swim as an adult properly because most
Good
people
luck.
like they don't teach you to swim properly as a child. They teach you to not drown and like maybe go a little bit in one direction, right? But for the most part, you don't know how to you don't learn how to swim. So I had to like relearn how to swim when I was 30, proper like learn kind of somewhat proper stroke mechanics. So I'm not a very good swimmer, but I can go forever. So I last year, 2 years ago, attempted to swim across the English Channel, and that was like swimming is obnoxious. So I'm not very fast, but I can go forever. But I bet you're probably at least double my speed, if not faster, in terms of like medium distances. I think my 100-meter time is like, I don't know, maybe like I can't do the flip turn thing. Like I just go in one direction, stop, turn around.
Well, that'll save you a couple seconds for sure.
Probably.
What is
yes.
have you timed yourself for 100 meters?
I think if I was doing like a tempo workout, like maybe not like full sprint, but like kind of tempo-ish in a 50-meter pool, I could maybe go 45 seconds would be like fresh, fully rested.
That's pretty good.
I remember
that's pretty good.
I was at I was at the pool, like this like Olympic pool that's in my neighborhood, and I was like learning how to swim with like total immersion, and there's a guy named Adam Walker. He teaches like a swim stroke. He had like a massive shoulder surgery. He had to like relearn how to swim, and I would always count like for anybody who's I don't know, Noah, you might call bullshit on this, but like for me, I would always look at someone swimming and count the number of strokes they take to get to the end of the pool. So it's not like about speed as it is like number of strokes.
It's about efficiency.
Because someone who's like sprinting could be going like a little bit faster than like Noah, for example, but Noah would take like half the number of strokes, right? And so I was counting, like I can get across that 50-meter pool at about like 38 strokes is about like with 36 revolutions of one arm is about what I could do. And I counted this guy, and he was doing like 33, and I'm like, shit, that's like better than me. How is he like, I'm supposed to be the most efficient person at this pool. How is this random guy who was like shorter than me, how is he better than me? So he gets into the pool, we finish our work at the same time, and I'm like, hey man, like you're a really good swimmer. And he goes, oh thanks, I just got back from Tokyo. And so turns out he's a 4-time Olympian. so he was probably doing his like, he was like cool down or whatever, is like very relaxed.
Did you get his name?
Irakli Revishvili. He's a Georgian. So I live in the country of Georgia. He's a Georgian national. Irakli. Yeah. So 3 times world and Europe champion, 4 times world record holder. I think in the 200. He either does 200 or no, he's like. I think so. I think he's 2 or 400. Oh, okay. So 3-time Olympian. So he's in Beijing, Rio, and Tokyo. But yeah, I saw this guy swim, and he was like shorter than me, which is like, height isn't a huge advantage in swimming. I'm not something like 6 feet tall. I'm not huge, but he was very smooth, and I was like, shit, that's like really good. But yeah, what was your events? What was your swimming?
I was 50 and 100 breast. That was my stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, 50, 100 breast. I was more of a short course guy, but long course we can still tear it up.
Yeah. I'm like very much I'm not, I wouldn't consider myself to be like, I played Ultimate in university, just like, in real or whatever. So I can pick up like most sports just from like general being a coordinator.
If you're athletic.
Yeah, like just being like, I think
should be able to do that, yeah.
Normal coordination, right? Like picking up whatever. But I could just go, like, I'm just stubborn. I can just go forever. I'm not a sprint guy, but like I can go for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, to the point where I need painkillers the next day to like fall asleep. And yeah.
Hey man, did you actually end up running that Ironman?
Yeah, I did a half Ironman in France, did a full in Mont-Tremblant in 2019.
There you go.
So my dad was big into running when I grew up, so I was always into endurance of some kind. So did like a marathon in 2011 in Toronto with my dad. Biked across Canada in 2009 from Vancouver to St. John's, Newfoundland. And then I was like, well, what's like the hardest thing? So then it was Ironman. I was like, what's the hardest thing I can possibly conceive of, which is Ironman. So for those who don't know, it's a 3.8 kilometer swim, 2.4 miles, 180 kilometer, 112 mile bike, and then a 42 kilometer, like a marathon, 42 kilometers,
Yep.
26 miles run, and you do it back to back to back all in one day, with like a couple minutes rest between to like, change out of your swim shorts and stuff like that. So yeah, that taught me like what difficulty was, because like
Yep.
if you've never done an Ironman, you just don't know what hard is like at all, or okay, so the exception would be Olympians. Like if you're just used to going to the gym 3 days a week, like 3 days a week is nothing. Ironman, it's 2 times a day. Maybe you have a rest day like every 3 weeks. So that I had a coach for that, mostly to keep me sane, because like
Brutal.
that beats up your body.
You also need one.
Yeah, it's right, because like there's times when it's injuries all the time. You're always thinking like, what's super interesting to me. Okay, so in terms of like the philosophy of like scaling a business or doing anything to the extreme. So I'll use an athletic analogy because most people understand that. So Noah, I know for a fact Noah could swim a few hundred meters pretty easily with like, you could do it drunk, you could do it sleep deprived, you could not sleep for 48 hours, be drunk, be wearing
Still be able to do it.
like an extra large swim shorts, probably like no goggles, no swim hat. You could have an afro and still make it a couple hundred meters, because it's like, it's not that hard, right? Whereas if you were trying to set a personal best, or like, okay, so if you're trying to do like, whatever, a typical competitive swim workout, so 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, whatever, something like that, you probably wouldn't want to do that drunk. You'd probably have to be pretty well rested. You probably have to, like, you wouldn't want to be like puking in the, whatever. You'd have to be like in decent condition to do that. But if you wanted to like meet Olympic trials, or do like in the endurance world, like for me, like I could do like a 5K run in jeans drunk, and like I could still make it, right? It's not gonna be pretty, but I could still make it. But if I'm gonna think about doing like a marathon, then you have to consider things like, okay, so am I wearing the right clothes? Because like chafing after 3 to 4 hours is like really not good. You have to make sure your nutrition is good, but like Ironman, you have to make sure like way more things are on point. So like for those who don't know, like running a marathon is something most people consider to be like kind of difficult, but the marathon is like, you do the marathon after biking 180 kilometers and doing the swim in an Ironman. So the marathon is like the cool down, basically, right? You're almost, if you make it to the marathon, you're basically done, right? You only have like 4 to 5 hours left. And so I think like the interesting thing about athletics is it's not the benefit of going farther and faster and whatever is it teaches you what things are actually important, like how to dial things in, right? Like you don't have to dial anything in if you're just doing like a 50-meter swim at any speed. You don't have to dial anything in if you're doing like a half marathon or a 5K or whatever. And with business is like super interesting, because like to me it's, I kind of think about it like an MBA. So what is it like to earn $1 million a month? Like I don't know yet, right? But I'm really interested to know what we have to dial in to get to $1 million or 10 million a month or whatever it is. In the same way that I've experienced that for sports.
It's that whole Pareto principle, right? Like
Yeah.
you can be 80% pretty easy, but the last 20% is going to require a whole different level of input.
It's same in business. I mean, like the last 20% makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the only thing that matters.
My
opinion.
question for you, Noah, and this is something we're going to start asking everyone, is where does Noah go in 2 to 3 years? Where are you going personally, and then where's your company going?
Yeah. I think that there are always like sort of chapters. People will call them seasons. It seems to be the thing now, but I like to call them chapters in your life. Um, right now, the chapter that I'm in personally is focusing on growing a business, and focusing on growing character through experience. So, like while we're doing all this, and I'm working 14 hours a day, training for a marathon in 2 weeks from now, and after that, and probably do something else, and there's always something going on. So definitely very growth centric, very development centric. 2 to 3 years from now, where did I put us? Into 2027. Um, our goal by the end of 2030 is to be running $1 billion holdco. So everything will kind of stack into that. But I would love to, by the end of the, like within 2 to 3 years from now, be the largest program in the space. And when I say the space, I'm not talking about info product. I'm not talking about done with you. I'm not talking about done for you. I'm talking about all those things combined. I'd like to be looked at as, the largest and the go-to agency, but also the largest and the go-to info product, and largest and the go-to done with you program, where we can partner with people, and be able to, take this whole thing to another level. One of the things we just talked about, the Pareto principle. I was sitting upstairs and doing an interview with our documentary team, and basically talking about the fact that, like, just due to the nature of the space that we have here, like money, Twitter and internet money, it's so brand new. And because of that, the people who are able to take the most advantage of it are the ones who are usually a bit younger, because they're thinking a little bit more progressively and laterally. And it's such an interesting thing, because you put in these inputs and then you can get these crazy outputs of like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, which is more than most doctors make. And you can have like 17-year-olds doing that by running a couple ads. And I think it breeds this interesting community online, because like when you're young and you're making that kind of money, it's like it's really difficult to continue pushing, because you don't actually know what you want, and you don't actually know the reasons behind what you want. And we get left with this very interesting community of business owners that are doing very well comparatively to the rest of the entrepreneurial space, but are still these like tiny specks of dust in the grand scheme of things in the business industry as a whole. But in the internet money space are like massive. And it's really easy to get comfortable. So I think honestly, a lot of programs, a lot of agencies, a lot of courses will get stuck in this. We're going to put in 20% of the work, to get these huge returns, and then the other 80% of the time, like, I don't really know what to do. And like it's not a matter of like I don't want to put in the work, I just don't know where to go. And so instead of doing the absolute maximum, we do the absolute average. And I want to be at the helm of the first program and the first company to take over this space, and be willing to take it to the absolute maximum, to the point where like 99% of the customers that come through our program are not only finding success and coming away from it with a smile on their face, but are becoming that next generation of people that you find in these communities online. Like I live with Zach Oldham. I live with a couple of really great killers down here, and a lot of Zach's friends like Charlie Morgan and Bo and whatnot came out of Iman's original program years ago. And it wasn't Iman's inputs that got them there. It was them showing up and getting on calls every day and getting to know each other and learning from each other's mistakes, and had nothing to do with the program itself. But a lot of the guys that you see online that are killing it today, that you look at as kind of like the be all end all of SMMA, growth partnerships, whatever you call it, agencies, internet money, came from that program. And it always makes me wonder, like, what would happen if a program put the same amount of effort in as the people who participated in it? So I want to do that. And as a result, we'll end up ideally taking over and being the place where people come to when they're looking to take their business or their personal life to the next level.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Curious to see where this goes, and I think we're probably going to be due for a part 2 once you're actually going to get there and share your experience and from your perspective. Then the final question, and this is already, Ryan, this might be the norm now. The final question we ask everyone now is, what do you think we should name this podcast? This is as of now, the unnamed podcast. So
We
you
could
get
just here's what we
to
just do. Okay, you
throw
get
in
to
a
name,
raffle.
You get to name the next. Well, we'll just change the name every episode,
All right.
and you get to name the next one. It's like the what's this guy, the British guy, Stephen Bartlett or whatever. He has like
Yeah.
this journal of questions, and the person writes it. So yeah, that's how we're gonna go. You get to name the episode. Never mind. Okay. Anyway, all right.
Hey, this is a big risk, you guys.
Yeah.
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 No,
We're at your
yeah.
mercy.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Well, I'll stick with the theme of ops because that's what you guys do best. And we did a lot of talking about sports and mastermind or sports and that influence on business. So we'll call it Iron Ops
Oh, that's cool.
Iron
for the next
Ops.
episode.
All right. That's
There
cool.
we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Awesome. Love
All
love
right.
that.
That's cool.
All
right.
That's it.
Sweet.
Noah, it's been great having you on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
We're looking forward to follow your story. What is the best place people can reach out to you and find you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can just search up my name on YouTube if you're on YouTube right now. Just Noah Kent. And if you want to get to know some of our other partners, check out Dylan Wilson as well. He's got way more subscribers than me. He's been around for a lot longer. We have a free community as well, so you can hop into that. Our entire program is going to be on there. We have existing content as well. It's about 600 people in it. And if you ever want to help, if you ever need or want help scaling your business, feel free to book a time to chat with myself or one of our advisors, and we can see what we can do for you.
Love it.
Sweet.
Noah, it's
Thanks,
been a pleasure.
Noah. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Chat soon, boys. Thank you.